Good morning. This is Hammersmith Chess Club Junior Hour Basics in 5 minutes or so. This video is a short summary of an endgame session we had in April 2020. It's about basic endgames, very easy ones from kindergarten to more difficult ones to primary school. You can always stop the video anytime at a certain position when you want to understand the position yourself or try out the moves yourselves to mate the king or to defend to get a draw. Now the first 5 positions are very basic ones. Queen against king. As we see here, white to move and win. The principle is easy. You cut off the king along the rank. Here it's the 5th rank. Then you approach your king because you cannot mate with queen alone. And when you're close enough, you squeeze the king to the edge with the help of the king. Once it is on the edge, you can mate with the queen. Second position, rook against king. Also here you need to the help of the king. The king approaches, and there are different ways. I just show one way where you push the king into a box and reduce the box further and further by your rook. Now here the box is this square of 4x4 squares. Further reducing, now you can't, so you can come closer with your king. The box can be reduced again, king comes closer, reduced again, and now you have to be careful, you can't reduce it anymore, but you can mate. Third, and it's getting more difficult now. Actually, this is not yet getting difficult, that's easier, that's with 2 rooks. 2 rooks are able to mate the king alone, they don't need the help of your own king. So it's a kind of ladder. The rooks move up the ladder to the edge of the board and can alone mate the king. The 4th is more difficult. 2 bishops against king. It's again squeezing the king into a box. The box is not rectangular, it's a triangle. So the king cannot cross the path of those 2 bishops, which are complementing each other with the colors of their squares. And then the king is approaching your own king and at a certain time enters the box because you need the king to mate with the help of 2 bishops. So the king is at the edge of the board, pushed to the corner, and the mate can only come in a corner. And the last basic example is a mate with 2 knights. Actually, you cannot force the mate. Only by mistake of the opponent, you will mate with 2 knights. And the mistake would be to go into a corner. Here is the big choice for black. Going into the corner means it's a mate, but the normal move, going to the center, white has no way to mate. So I open the next set of endgames. These are endgames queen against pawn, or for the defender, pawn against queen. Now for a central and a bishop's pawn and a knight's pawn, it's relatively easy. The process to win, white comes closer with the queen and forces by different checks the defending king to the promotion square of the pawn. And once this is done, his own king can come 1 step closer. So again, a series of checks. Again, the king is blocking the promotion, so your own king can come closer. Another series of checks, and the king come closer. Another series of checks, the king come closer. Now very close already, and the pawn is lost and black is mated. This procedure is different against a rook and a bishop's endgame pawn. Against a rook's pawn, indeed, the potential of a draw is very high. That's in many endgames, also against rook or in rook endgames. So here the position is drawn with black to move, with white to move. Important is that the king here goes into the corner. It can hide in the corner, and if white tries to do queen c2, it is stalemate, or if white would come closer, it's already stalemate now. So there is no way for white to push out the king from the corner. The black king will always be able to move into a1. There is one exception, and the difference to the previous was that here now the king is on one square closer to the black king. Here there is a possibility to mate black's king, to allow him promoting a queen, but then to find a mate. So the black queen is in the corner, and there is no way for black to move, and the only move is with the queen, and to avoid a mate on d1 or on b1. The queen has to go away to protect against the mate on b2. In case of a bishop's pawn, it is similar. In this case, the position is drawn. Here it's a similar method. Black goes into the corner with his king. And if white takes the pawn and has to do it at a certain time, then it is already stalemate. There is no way for white to force the black king to c1, to the promotion square. So black always goes with a check to a1. However, in this situation, black will lose because he's losing one or two moves to go to the promotion, go to the corner. And then the white king, as in the previous example with the rook's pawn, is too close. So again, check, check. And now the king has to go to the promotion square, and that allows the white king to come one step closer. Now black can promote, but white can mate on a2. And if here, of course, black goes to the corner, then there will be a mate because the king is close enough. So now let's come to a third group of basic endgames. We will see 5 positions of king and pawn versus king endgames. A simple rule is the rule of the square. When the opponent king can enter the square of the pawn, then it will be a draw. So the rule, the square is defined as the position where the pawn is, the promotion square, and that then you have the full square. Now black can enter the square by b5 or b6. Now it is in this square and is able to stop the pawn or to capture the queen. So this is just a rule. You don't have to count the moves. You can easily see graphically whether the king is able to enter the square. Now, the most important principle in endgame or in pawn endgames, but very often also in other endgames, is the opposition. You should be able to get opposition, then you're able to win or to get a draw. In this example, we see this. To push the pawn forward, f6 would draw the game only, because black can go into opposition. That means his king is directly opposite of the opponent's king, and there will be stalemate. So white himself should go into opposition, and that forces black to move out of the way of the pawn, either that way or the other way. And once this is done, the own pawn can promote, can go forward and promote and win. You have to be careful though with the knight's pawn, because here very often there are stalemate motives, and this is one of the motives. So you should avoid to push the pawn now, because now black cannot move, it is stalemate. So here you have to first squeeze the opponent's king out of the way. And if the king goes into opposition here, then the pawn can promote, and indeed this is not a stalemate anymore. With the rook's pawn, it's always much more complicated to win. Indeed, there are two positions now, the last two positions, which show the position from the defender's side without the pawn, and against the rook's pawn, it is absolutely drawn. The king, the black king, just moves between a8 and b8, and there is no way in the world to push him out of that corner, or he will be stalemated in the corner, like here. So either your king is in front of the pawn, or indeed you force the opponent's king to be in front of his own pawn, and that also will lead to stalemate. So the pawn is going down the board, it's white's pawn, and the way to draw for black is to go into opposition and then to force the white king to the corner, and there is no way that white can escape from the corner. Thank you very much for listening to Basic Endgames.